Understanding assets and living trusts. Creating a living trust can be a smart way to manage your assets and ensure they are distributed according to your wishes after you pass away. However, not all assets should be included in a living trust. In this video, we will explore what not to put in a living trust and why. By understanding these nuances, you can make informed decisions about your estate planning and develop the right asset protection strategies for your situation. This will help you avoid unnecessary complications, legal risks, and tax liabilities, ensuring that your beneficiaries receive the maximum benefit from your assets. Let's dive in and make this process as clear and straightforward as possible. 1. Vehicles. Not a good fit for living trusts. One of the 5 assets that should never go into a living trust is vehicles. Including vehicles in a living trust might seem like a good idea at first, but it can actually create more problems than it solves. Let's take a look at the reasons why vehicles should not be included in a living trust. Easy transfer with a death certificate. Vehicles can be easily transferred to a beneficiary with just a death certificate. One of the primary reasons vehicles should be left out of a living trust is the ease with which they can be transferred upon the owner's death. In most states, transferring ownership of a vehicle to a beneficiary only requires presenting the death certificate to the Department of Motor Vehicles. This simple process avoids the need for probate and makes including the vehicle in a trust unnecessary, legal and financial risks. Additionally, putting a vehicle in a trust can expose the trust to potential lawsuits. For example, if the vehicle is involved in an accident, the trust might be held liable, complicating matters further. Keeping the vehicle out of the trust isolates this risk, protecting the other assets held in the trust. Therefore, it's generally best to leave vehicles out of your living trust to avoid unnecessary complications and legal risks. No added benefits. Another consideration is that including a vehicle doesn't provide any significant living trust benefits. Primary living trust benefits are to avoid probate and simplify the transfer of assets. Since vehicles can already be transferred easily with a death certificate, adding them to the trust doesn't offer additional advantages. In fact, it may complicate the administration of the trust, making it harder to manage and maintain. 2. Retirement accounts. Keep them separate. Another one of the 5 assets that should never go into a living trust is retirement accounts. Placing these accounts into a living trust can lead to unintended consequences. Let's talk about these drawbacks. Tax consequences and penalties. The tax-deferred nature of retirement accounts, like IRAs and 401ks, is one of their key benefits. Contributions to these accounts are often made with pre-tax dollars, and the funds grow tax-deferred until they are withdrawn. If you transfer a retirement account into a living trust, it can be considered a distribution, triggering income tax on the entire amount. This could result in a significant and unnecessary tax bill, diminishing the value of your retirement savings. Required minimum distributions (RMDs). If a retirement account is placed in a living trust, it can complicate the calculation and distribution of required minimum distributions. The IRS has specific rules for RMDs, and trusts often have different distribution schedules and requirements. This mismatch can lead to confusion and potential penalties if the RMDs are not handled correctly. Preservation of tax benefits. By keeping retirement accounts outside of a living trust and designating individual beneficiaries, you can preserve the tax benefits and ensure a smooth transfer of assets. The beneficiaries can take advantage of stretch provisions, allowing them to spread out distributions and the associated tax liability over their lifetimes. 3. Annuities. Avoid taxable events. Annuities are unique financial products that are essentially trust agreements themselves. Including them in a living trust can create unwanted complications and are an example of what not to put in a living trust. Let's discuss the ramifications of putting annuities in a living trust. Immediate taxation. One of the biggest risks of placing an annuity in a living trust is the potential for immediate taxation. Annuities grow tax-deferred, meaning that the investment's earnings are not taxed until they are withdrawn. However, Transferring an annuity to a trust can be viewed by the IRS as a distribution, making the entire value of the annuity subject to income tax at once. This immediate tax bill can significantly reduce the value of the annuity and negate the tax deferral benefits. Loss of tax deferral. Annuities are designed to allow the policyholder to defer taxes on the earnings until they are withdrawn, typically during retirement, when the individual may be in a lower tax bracket. By transferring an annuity into a living trust, you risk losing this tax deferral benefit. The immediate taxation triggered by the transfer can lead to a higher tax burden, especially if the policyholder is in a higher tax bracket at the time of transfer. Complicated beneficiary designations. Annuities often have specific rules and regulations regarding beneficiary designations. When you place an annuity in a living trust, it can complicate these designations. The trust becomes the owner and the beneficiary of the annuity, which can lead to issues with the insurance company and potentially void the policy. It's usually more straightforward to name individual beneficiaries directly on the annuity contract, ensuring a smoother transfer upon your death. Surrender charges. Many annuities come with surrender charges if the policy is cashed in or transferred within a certain period after purchase. Transferring an annuity to a living trust can trigger these surrender charges, resulting in additional financial penalties. These charges can be substantial, further reducing the value of the annuity and the overall benefits of the trust. Impact on Medicaid planning. Annuities can play a role in Medicaid planning, as they can be structured to provide a stream of income that may not be counted against Medicaid eligibility limits. However, transferring an annuity to a living trust can complicate this planning strategy. The transfer could be viewed as a disqualifying transfer of assets, affecting your eligibility for Medicaid benefits and potentially leading to penalties. As such, by leaving annuities out of your living trust and simply naming a beneficiary or multiple beneficiaries on your annuities allows them to be transferred smoothly and efficiently outside of probate. 4. Life insurance. Simplify the process. Life insurance is also one of the 5 assets that should never go into a living trust. On the contrary, doing so may not provide any additional benefits and could complicate the process. Let's examine the disadvantages of including life insurance in a living trust. Complications with payouts. Including life insurance in a living trust can delay the payout of the policy's death benefit. Normally, life insurance benefits are paid directly to the named beneficiaries shortly after the insurer receives a death certificate. However, if the policy is part of a trust, the process might involve additional administrative steps, causing delays that could be avoided if the policy were kept separate. Potential tax consequences. One of the primary reasons to avoid placing life insurance in a living trust is the potential tax consequences. Life insurance proceeds are generally income tax-free to the beneficiary. However, if the life insurance policy is included in your estate, it could be subject to estate taxes. A better alternative might be an irrevocable life insurance trust, which can help remove the policy from your taxable estate. Administrative complexity. Managing life insurance within a living trust can add unnecessary administrative complexity. The trust must be properly managed and maintained, with all changes to the policy documented and executed through the trust. This can complicate the overall management of the trust and increase the burden on the trustee. Life insurance policies are designed to be easily transferred to a beneficiary, making it unnecessary to include them in a living trust. By naming a beneficiary directly on your life insurance policy, you can ensure that the life insurance benefits are paid out promptly and without the need for probate or a living trust, ensuring a straightforward and efficient transfer of benefits to heirs. Irrevocable life insurance trusts. A special case. While it's usually not necessary to include life insurance in a living trust, there is an exception: irrevocable life insurance trusts. These specialized trusts can be used to avoid estate taxes, making them a valuable tool in estate planning. An ILIT is a trust that you create to own your life insurance policy. By transferring ownership of the policy to the ILIT, the proceeds from the policy aren't considered part of your estate for tax purposes. This can significantly reduce the estate taxes owed upon your passing, ensuring that more of your assets are passed on to your beneficiaries. 5. Health savings accounts, ownership and beneficiary designation. When you create a living trust, assets transferred into the trust are legally owned by the trust itself. Transferring an HSA to a trust would conflict with its requirement for individual ownership, tax implications and penalties. If an HSA is transferred into a living trust, it would be considered a distribution, subjecting it to income tax and possibly a 20% penalty if you're under the age of 65. Happy planning!